Cool, we're live. Welcome to the Data Neighbor podcast with Sravya and Sean. This is episode 1, guys. Episode 1. How are you feeling?
Nice.
Exciting. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we should give a little bit of introduction about what this podcast is about for our audience. I think the natural question is, what is the purpose of this podcast? What are we looking to achieve here?
Uh, yeah, I can go first, and it'll be interesting to see both of your answers and how much of ours intersect, right? So for me, this podcast is basically a forum for us to just discuss what data science is all about, what the data science neighbors are all about, like, maybe AI, ML, data engineering, and, all of that. And just have good casual conversations about how could one be a better data scientist, how could one grow in data science, and what are some interesting things that we all have faced as part of our careers. Me at Microsoft and eBay and Nextdoor, and Sean, you've got a bunch of experience I'm sure you're going to talk about, and how you've gone through so many things, and all of us sharing this great bond that we had being neighbors at Nextdoor. So this is pretty interesting and exciting for me. Yeah. So that's what this podcast is for me.
Yeah. I think same here. I mean, I think something that I've learned from one company to another is they're all like data science and data analytics and all these roles mean something different at every company, especially across different industries. And I think it's just like an opportunity to reflect on that, but also like talk to a bunch of other people and be like when you say you're a data science, like what exactly are you? It's like actually like the data science I am today is very different than the work I was doing like 5 years ago, and I'm sure even within the same company, people are different. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm most excited about learning, just talking to other people in the industry.
I mean, very similar points here. It's really about just making data science as a career accessible to people, especially the ones who don't have the opportunity that we have in this field for a long time to just understand, peel off the curtain a little bit, like, hey, what is this buzzword about, like behind the scene? Is this something that I really want to do? This is really the gist of it, to help people break into the field if you're not already in the field, or help you thrive further if you're already doing something very similar. So I think it's going to be really cool conversations, and over the coming episodes and things, absolutely going to bring as much value as possible and as diverse of topics as possible to help you all learn what this whole thing is about. Now, speaking of which, this is a good segue into perhaps host introductions here. Sravya, would you want to give the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Sravya Madipalli. I am born and brought up in India. I did my bachelor's in computer science engineering. I actually worked as a software developer for a couple of years in India. And as part of that, I was doing a lot of SQL, like back in engineering work. And I realized I enjoyed being part of business and understanding business problems and solving them. And because I was already doing SQL, data science and data analytics felt like a nice bridge between computer science and business. And that's the reason I came from a master's in the US, a business school. And after that, I got an internship as part of that with Microsoft, which is pretty cool. Just got me introduced to this new world of data science. As part of that, I got like a full time offer with Microsoft and stayed there for a long time, for 6 years, briefly worked in eBay, and then have been at Nextdoor. And I'm on my path to move to another company, which I'll reveal soon. Yeah. So that's about me. I've been, from the data science and career perspective, I was actually looking at hardware data, like telemetry is what we used to call the power, fan, temperatures of Xbox. That's what my work was when I joined Microsoft, which is very interesting, right? And now later moved into eBay, which was like e-commerce data. And at Nextdoor, it was social media data. So data's everywhere. And I just got a chance to look at different domains of that area from like start of my career to now. Yeah.
And before we move on to Sean, Shravya, what specifically about data draws and piques your interest? Like, data's everywhere. Some people are like, hey, it's just whatever. It's a bunch of matrix codes here, like very complicated, whatever. What about it draws you in?
Great question. So I keep thinking about this, right? So I try to post on LinkedIn if possible every day, and so something that I wanted to post about, but I had tough time articulating, which is we've always had data, right? Since like everyone has data, but it's just not sitting in a computer in a tabular format for you to go analyze. Like my grandmother did data analytics, I feel like, because every time I said I had a stomach ache, she was like, hey, you ate this yesterday, you had this yesterday because of this, because of this, because of that. That's nothing but analytics and data. So it's just that we have these fancy words and technologies and tools around it these days. And I've always been that person, analytical or, I mean, I hope I'm not like talking about myself being analytical, but I ask so many questions always. I was a very tough kid for my parents because I used to always have questions, and the mindset and how I thought is literally what I do technically with tools in data today. So I personally think there's no big change in how my thought process changed over the years since my kid years to now. So for me, that's what's exciting is that I'm doing what I love, what I've always done in my life, and I'm getting paid for it. This is amazing. So yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. And about the compensation part, we're gonna go over that in a future episode. I'm pretty sure it's a fascinating topic for sure. And we're gonna try to cover as many topics, sensitive or not sensitive, as much as possible on this podcast, and that's one of our goals. Cool. All right, Sean.
Sravya, when you're questioning your parent, when you're having questions with your parents, are you trying to use data to prove them wrong? Like they're like, no, you can't go out tonight, and you're like, no, 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 let me
Oh yeah, don't you do that all the time? Like my friend does that all the time. Like this friend does that
yeah,
5 times, and you never do it. Like why am I the
our
outlier,
data.
right? I want to be a median or a mean, not an outlier. I think
Yeah.
we all fought for that with our parents.
That already touched a whole bunch of statistics concepts that's used all the time in what we do. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yep.
All right, Sean, what about you?
Yeah. Oh man, Shravya's bio elevator pitch is so good. I could just ramble though. But yeah, I think late 80s, I was in the womb trying to determine when I was finally going to be released into the world. And so that's what really got me into predictive modeling and forecasting. No, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like I definitely was not coming from like a technical background, like Sravya. I was very focused in my life early on, like through maybe my late 20s on going into like foreign service, like working at embassies across the world or like going into like international development, like with like USAID or something. And so my focus had always been more around like international studies and political science. And I spent a couple of years in the Peace Corps, which is a volunteer program abroad in Indonesia. I went to school after that for public policy at Carnegie Mellon with the idea of like, I'll do this and then get into more like government policy work. And yeah, I think honestly, I just met a couple of guys there who are my friends who they're like the guys that I drank beer with and stuff. And they were on the data analytics track. And I was like, I'm going to go take like some more classes with them next quarter just because we're friends. And I think you take like stats classes in any grad school program, but I think I took like a R class with them. And that was my first kind of introduction to more around data science and just coding in general. And I was like, oh, cool, this is like kind of good. And they pay you a lot more to do this stuff than to go into nonprofits and stuff like that. So yeah, I went to consulting after that. I did like an internship at PwC, joined their analytics team for a couple of years. Yeah, that was kind of like my intro, more around kind of data analytics work, Tableau and Power BI and SAP stuff. And I got tired of consulting because you just have to travel all the time. And it was like every week traveling somewhere else and not hanging out with my partner and our dog. And so then I just ended up getting this kind of tech job at this company, Appfolio. They're like a property management software company, and I worked there for a few years leading their product analytics team. And that was my first intro to data science, but also tech. And I didn't know what anything was. I was like, what does UX stand for? What's a product manager? I didn't know anything, like even like how the prod dev teams were set up. And they were there for a while. And then I met you two when I worked at Nextdoor following that. And we were there for a few years, which is where I think I grew the most in my data science career. And now I'm currently a data scientist type. Yeah. But excited to be doing this here with you. And also just like, it's the best thing about it, like keep in touch with everyone, talking data science, even when you're all different places afterwards.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's the part I love the most, that we are able to spend some time together and just learn about all the things that we're doing outside of where we were before.
Yeah, for sure. And one really important point here in Sean's background is that he was coming from a non-technical background, or at least not the very traditional sort of math engineering sort of, like upbringing. And he's been successful at getting into the field and thrive in the field. So there's a lot of instances of that where it may not actually pop up in many people's mind that they could actually do it. And now here we are. We have a sitting host here that did that exact same path. So I'll be talking about that at some point. Before we jump on, what are your titles, guys?
Yeah, I am a senior manager in data science. I have a team of 7 next door, and moving Grammarly as a senior manager in data science as well. So having a similar team of 7 to 8 folks. Yeah. So that's about me.
Yeah, I'm a senior data scientist at Stripe. So we'll get into this later, but I've taken like a different route to Sravya, where it's called the IC, individual contributor route.
Nice. Very cool. Quickly introduce myself. My name is Hai. I've been in the data space for 15 or 20 years, something like that. It's been a long time. And I was last director of data science at Nextdoor, and currently taking a personal sabbatical. And so it's been fun. And my story with
Which
data,
we are all jealous about.
everyone can do it.
Well, you're not on sabbatical. You're the host of the Data Neighbors show.
We're all co-hosts, so you guys are doing double duty. I'm just enjoying life doing one job here. But yeah, the how I started in data is actually very spontaneous. So in college, back in the 2000s, I was very interested in things like statistics, economics, and more applicable versions of mathematics effectively. And that's what I studied. And the interesting thing is, back then, there was no such thing as data science, big data, or anything data. It's just, it just didn't exist. And so what ended up happening, and statistics departments at least in my college, was very tiny. Like, we're talking about 10 people or 20 people per year. And what do everybody do after they graduate when there's no such thing as like a data field? 98% of them went on to become an actuary. And for those who are not aware, actuary is a profession where behind the scenes of insurance, for example, your health insurance, your car insurance, your house insurance, behind the scene, there's a bunch of these actuaries that are actually setting prices for how much you should be paying for the policy that you have. And so that was literally the only path. 98% of classmates went there. And then knowing that 98% of my classmates went there, I deliberately chose not to go there because I didn't want to follow the crowd. And me to like a credit card company, and then 2008 happened, and that didn't survive. One thing, because I was actually doing data work at a non-traditional type of data role, I got into a social gaming, and they were of doing data analytics at the time. This was way back in 2010, and so that was the first introduction into using the statistics skills into something as a actual job. And so that snowballed into multiple opportunities where learning a whole bunch from a cutting edge company using data analytics, jumped over to Facebook, jumped over to the very early version of Pinterest, and then LinkedIn, and then Nextdoor. That's kind of like the whole journey. The whole idea, I think, right around here is that it only takes one spontaneous encounter for your career to kind of snowball. And so I think we all heard from this conversation here that every one of us caught a break somewhere. And that break led us to where we are today. And so it is, like something to look out for. And we're going to keep emphasizing it is look out for that one break for you. And perhaps that would be that would be a game changer in your life too.
So interesting on how we all came to that place. I was a computer science and then business, and Sean, you were entirely like non-tech. And you were from like traditional data, which is statistics and math. But all of us, through whatever turns we took, led to the same journey, and we are like at very similar places right now. So this could be like, an example for whoever's viewing today. Wherever you are, it's just that taking the right turn and then another turn and then another turn, and eventually you could go to the place that you'd want to go to. It's just about taking those turns and, patiently being on that journey.
Yeah.
So I've seen from, like many years of hiring, many years of mentorships and things, everybody is trying to find the most optimal route to a given destination. But really, if you keep making breaks happen, then that's opportunity. And, when it presents itself, you're ready to kind of seize it. So very similar in all of our career. And especially in today's world where it might seem really hard to break in to the field because everybody's looking for experienced hires in this field. All it takes is just that one break. One break, you get in and you're on the other side. So always be on the lookout for that.
Have you heard about luck surface area? I've read this somewhere, maybe from Sahil Bloom or someone. So they talk about increasing your luck surface area. So if you think about it, maybe I got lucky with my internship at Microsoft. Maybe I got lucky with coming to Nextdoor, where I had the chance to grow into management, like, like senior management and things like that, right? But guess what? I was doing a lot more, which is what I think you were talking about, right? Is doing so much that when the opportunity clicks, you're already there. It's like you're already doing the same work and it's just literally transferring into that. So when you work on yourself in multiple areas and increase your chances of getting the opportunity to you, like maybe for Microsoft, I was the top 10% of the class, and that made a difference. Apparently, my professor sent out resumes to the people who are top 10% of the class, and things like that. And my experience as a software engineer with like SQL as my background, and I had SaaS certifications, had a bunch of things in my portfolio that got me probably the job where I like improved my surface area of getting this opportunity to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like also it's like openness to experiment with a bunch of different things. And I talked to a lot of aspiring data scientists who are like, I really want to be an applied data scientist at this specific thing company, and I want to do it like right now at this point. And it's kind of like, you might go there and not like it. You might not even like data science. Not saying you shouldn't go do it, but be open to exploring that. Be open to exploring like data analytics, data engineering, ML, product management, other things. Be open to checking out startups or checking out big companies and everything in between. Like, you're not everyone has a different thing that they're gonna like really enjoy, and so try those different things. And the nice thing about data in general is the skills are very transferable from one thing to another. So you can still change your path. You don't get pigeonholed. Like you can get to wherever you want. Like you're saying, there's so many different ways, and I think had that openness, like kind of broadens that luck surface you're talking about.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think that's the theme of this intro podcast, which is always be ready for the opportunity. Cool. All right. Switching gear a little bit. So we're gonna release episodes once a week for this podcast going forward. What can the audience expect from this podcast in general?
Conversations is something that I'm going to think we are going to offer for sure. Yeah. We need to cover what is data science all about, right? Because data science, I think, is less defined when compared to all other areas of work that I've seen generally. Maybe I don't know enough about them, but whatever I've understood, like a software engineer, this like full stack, this back end, this front end, this UX, this, all of this stuff. But with data science, you're called a data scientist and you do something at one company and entirely different in another company. So it's going to be very interesting for someone who didn't start into data, maybe doing a bachelor's, doing a master's, or maybe a non-tech background, wanting to understand data science. They do not know anything about like all these varied, masks that people wear as a data scientist. So I'd love to talk about them. Especially, we have them within the company. Forget about across the companies. So I think that'd be great, and understanding the depths of what each of them is and what are the great problems that we get to solve. What are some problems, not just technical, but also like, functional, like stakeholders and problems related to your career. How do you handle a tough stakeholder? Things like that. I could just go on, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for the people who are like trying to learn like what it is, kind of like I was saying with me, like, even like I went to grad school, I didn't know what data even was really. When I got into tech, I didn't know anything about product development. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And there's high level articles out there on it, or you're going to get like a sales pitch from the recruiter or something when you're trying to learn about it. But a lot of people don't have like friends in that industry, and hopefully this could be like a resource for them to learn more about it, what it is, and just the different flavors and which type of data science is the best and which one's the worst, and just really heated debates on that topic. I'd love to get a data scientist in here and just like, at the end of the day, come out and be like, no, you're wrong. That's not what data science is. It's clearly this one thing. So we'll finally answer that question for everyone, I think.
It feels like a meaning of life question.
Yeah.
This is going to be the existential
I think Joe
crisis
Rogan.
podcast for data.
Yeah.
Excited about the speakers that we will be bringing on, guest interviews with professionals in the space. So whether they could be the data scientists themselves, we're going to hear about their stories, how they got to where they are. We're going to bring in some product management stakeholders, partners, all through the ranks. So you can expect from current directors to VPs to like IC, individual contributor, product managers, and how they work with data scientists. You can expect to hear from like top of line machine learning engineers or cutting edge AI technologists. We're going to bring as many people as possible to kind of hear as diverse of a story as possible, to really help inspire kind of like and also what the heck this whole space is about. And so speaking of which is we're going to cover in the next episode here, is do a little bit of like a sneak peek discussion right around this topic here, which is why the heck are there so many data roles across the board? Like why data analyst, data analytics, data scientist, whatever. Like there's so many.
Yeah,
Advanced
business
analytics.
analyst, operations analyst, marketing analyst, business intelligence,
Why?
like
What's your take on those?
applied data scientist.
Yeah, in data science, we have data science product, data science advanced, analytics, algorithms, research scientist, applied data scientist. Oh my God, like so many names.
Mm-hmm.
A fun fact, when I started out at Microsoft, I was called applied statistics engineer for like 6 months.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
pretty sick.
Yeah.
I
I
changed
got
my
that.
LinkedIn title to that.
Applied statistics engineer. Yeah. And then I think within a year or something, Microsoft just like, generalized all data and statistics folks into data and applied scientists. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some clear divisions of families, like a data engineer or a machine learning engineer. Like, there's just like true components of software engineering that you'll need to have in your background to do that kind of work more. I think where it gets like really fuzzy is when there's all these different flavors of analysts, even if it's sometimes the same exact work, but it's just like call it something different, industry to industry or company to company. Yeah, why has that happened? I think, hi, you've been in the industry longest. Why did it evolve this way? I don't know. You probably have a better idea than me.
I think that's what he's going to talk about in the next
Yeah.
podcast. And we
Yeah.
both will listen to him. Right, Hi?
Well, not just me speaking though. You guys are gonna instill
Yeah.
your wisdom upon it. But I think like the proof to it where the families are pretty well defined, but then the specifics, for example, like the just how many there are within each family of those
Mm-hmm.
data rows is just a cluster. It's a little bit, it needs a cleanup. That's just my opinion. I think it needs a cleanup, but we'll get into more of the
Yeah.
detail on how that came about. And if you hear a role called statistical economist researcher, you'll know what roughly what that probably means.
I had like a LinkedIn post a few weeks ago where I was talking about causal inference techniques. Like I think I was introducing like difference in difference and regression discontinuity design and a few other things. And someone was on there was like, that's not data science, that's econometrics. And I was just like, and I was like, oh, kind of trying to be like diplomatic, like, oh yeah, yeah, it's econometrics for sure. Like, I mean, that's just like a tool that data scientists leverage. And he's like, no, that is not a data scientist. That is a economist. And I was like, trying to be diplomatic again, and he's like, no, that's not what it is. Like, all right, man. Like, it's just like nomenclature at some point. Like, it's just like we're calling things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Strong opinion sounds like.
Yeah. Some people have very strong opinions on it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Very cool topic to talk about and talk to some of our guests about. I'll get that person on here too. I'll send them a message on LinkedIn.
Nice. All right. That's one thing that you all can expect in one of the upcoming interviews. But yeah, the like back to the original theme of why we even started this podcast is to demystify everything as much as possible. All of these hundreds of non-standard data titles, they all roughly funnel into like 5 or 6 families. And if you know all of them, you don't need to know all of them, but if you know those 5 or 6, I think you'll be set.
Thing that I want to like let people know who are going to watch this is please like reach out through comments and through maybe our LinkedIn, but it'd be great to know in the comments too is what is it that you'd want to know, right? I'm sure I had so many questions when I was starting out. Even now I have a bunch of questions I'm sure we'll get to ask when we meet speakers, right? So please let us know in the comments and stuff like what is something that you always wanted to know or you have questions, and we could just take up those questions and just chat like this. So, yeah.
We're going to have episodes where we're just going to answer questions, do Q&As. Cool.
That'll be great. Yeah. It is.
All right. That's been a great conversation. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for listening. And we're going to have new episodes coming out every week.
Guys, look out for interesting conversations and great speakers and very questions that you've been always thinking about. I'm sure we're going to answer all that, but you'd only get to listen to that if you subscribe and like and comment and let us know how you felt about this. And also, if you have any more questions that you want us to answer, please comment so that that'll help us answer your questions later on in these episodes. Yeah.
And if you like what you heard today and you want more, and if you really liked it, I'll send you my Venmo. Send us ask in the comments. I'll drop my Venmo in the comments. And the more you send, the more likely that comment's going to get to the top of the ranked list. That is how the algorithm works.
Guys, I'm not related to that. It's purely Sean.
That's me, Sravya, signing out.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.